The morning sun reflected off the glass walls of Earth's tallest tech building, TechCore Industries. Inside, an unusual glow caught everyone's attention. Not from the lights, but from Alice, their newest employee. She walked through the lobby, her natural bioluminescence casting a soft blue light around her. As a starlight beamed from the distant luminous system, her whole body produced a gentle radiance that changed with her emotions. Right now, despite her nervousness, she glowed with hope and excitement. Security guards stared as she passed through the scanner. Her specialized environment suit, designed to maintain her body's delicate mineral balance, beeped through the system. One guard made a show of double-checking her credentials, while others whispered behind their hands. Another one of them asterisk, someone muttered, just loud enough for her to hear. Alice's glow dimmed slightly, but she kept walking. The company had hired 12 aliens so far, making it a leader in interstellar workplace integration. Still, being number 13 felt lonely. The elevator ride to the 157th floor seemed endless. Humans pressed themselves against the walls, leaving an empty circle around her. Alice pretended not to notice, focusing instead on her tablet displaying her new work details. Quantum Computing Division, Subsection 7, under Department Head Michael Thompson. When the elevator doors opened, a tall man with kind eyes waited outside. He wore a simple black suit with the silver TechCore pin that marked senior management. "Welcome to TechCore, Alice," he said, extending his hand. "I'm Michael Thompson." His smile seemed genuine, unlike the forced ones she'd seen all morning. Alice's glow brightened slightly as she shook his hand. "Thank you for this opportunity, Mr. Thompson," she said, her voice carrying the musical quality typical of her species. "Please call me Michael. Let me show you to your workspace." As they walked through the office, the usual buzz of conversation died. Hundreds of eyes followed them, some curious, others hostile. Michael led her to a specially designed workstation. The desk included mineral dispensers and atmospheric controls essential for her species. "We modified this station according to the specifications you sent," Michael explained. "If anything needs adjustment, just let me know." A group of senior engineers walked past, their faces twisted in disapproval. "There goes our budget," one said loudly. "Custom everything for the alien staff." Alice's glow flickered, turning slightly gray. Michael frowned but maintained his professional demeanor. "Your credentials are exceptional," he continued, purposefully speaking louder. 3 degrees in quantum mechanics, and your thesis on cross-dimensional computing is groundbreaking. We're fortunate to have you." Color returned to Alice's glow. She sat down at her station, feeling the familiar hum of quantum processors. This, at least, felt like home. "Team meeting in an hour," Michael said. "I'll introduce you properly then. Meanwhile, familiarize yourself with our current projects." As he walked away, Alice heard snippets of conversation from nearby cubicles. "They're taking our jobs. How can we trust them with sensitive data? Did you see how she glows? Creepy." Alice focused on her screen, trying to ignore them. Her species had faced this before on other worlds. Usually, it got better with time. Usually, the quantum computing data scrolled across her screen, complex but comforting in its logic. Numbers didn't care what species you were. Equations didn't whisper behind your back. From his office, Michael watched through the glass walls as Alice worked. He noticed how her glow dimmed with each negative comment, how she hunched slightly when people walked past. But he also saw her straighten up when the first quantum calculations appeared correct, saw the brief flash of brilliant blue when she solved a complex equation. He had fought hard to get approval for hiring alien staff. Now, watching the office dynamics unfold, he knew the real fight was just beginning. But seeing Alice's determined focus, her obvious skill, he knew it was worth it. The morning light caught her gentle glow, and for a moment, Michael forgot he was staring. He quickly turned back to his computer, unaware that this was just the beginning of a story that would change them both, and TechCore forever. 2 weeks had passed since Alice joined TechCore. Her workstation glowed with multiple screens showing complex quantum calculations. Her own natural light had settled into a steady blue-white, matching her growing confidence. That morning, she made an important discovery. The quantum processing speed could be doubled using a technique from her homeworld. Excited, she prepared to share her findings at the afternoon meeting. "Look at this," she called to Tom, her project partner. "If we adjust the quantum flow like this." But Tom walked past without looking. He'd been doing that more often lately. Alice's glow dimmed slightly, but she kept working. During lunch, she sat alone in the break room. Her special nutrient pack drew stares from others. She heard giggles from a nearby table where the senior engineer sat. "At least she doesn't eat real food," one whispered. "Imagine having to smell alien lunch." Alice's glow flickered gray. She focused on her tablet, reviewing her presentation for the 5th time. Back at her desk, she noticed something wrong. Her morning's work was gone. All of it. The quantum calculations, the breakthrough, everything had vanished from the system. "No, no, no," she whispered, her light pulsing with anxiety. She checked the backup systems. Nothing. From his office, Michael saw her distress. Her usual gentle glow had turned almost gray. He walked over, keeping his face neutral despite his concern. "Everything okay?" he asked quietly. "My work, it's gone," Alice said, her voice trembling. "Someone must have. Technical problems happen," Tom interrupted, walking past. "Maybe alien technology isn't compatible with ours." Alice's glow dimmed further. Michael noticed Tom's slight smirk as he walked away. "Show me what happened," Michael said, pulling up a chair. As Alice explained, Michael secretly pressed a small button on his watch. It had become his habit lately, recording any suspicious incidents. "I can help you recover the data," he said. "I had it install extra backup systems after the last technical problem." Alice looked at him with surprise. "You knew?" Michael nodded slightly. "I noticed things." They worked together for the next hour. Michael's fingers moved quickly over the keyboard, restoring her work from a hidden backup. Alice's glow brightened with each recovered file. "Thank you," she said softly. "Just doing my job," Michael replied, ignoring the warm feeling her brightened glow gave him. Later that afternoon, during a project meeting, Alice presented her findings. The quantum processing breakthrough was impressive. Even her critics couldn't deny it. But then the questions started. How do we know this alien technology is safe? What if it's a trap? Why should we trust her calculations? Before Alice could defend her work, another engineer accidentally spilled coffee on her environment suit's control panel. Warning lights flashed as the suit's mineral balance shifted. Alice's glow turned almost white with panic. Without the proper mineral balance, she could get very sick. She rushed out of the room. Michael stood up, his voice cutting through the snickers. "Meeting adjourned. Tom, stay behind." He found Alice in the maintenance room, trying to fix her suit. Her glow was so dim, she barely lit up the small space. "Here," he said, handing her an emergency mineral pack. "I kept one after reading your species' medical requirements." As her suit rebalanced, her glow slowly returned to normal. Michael pretended to check his phone, giving her time to compose herself. "The board meets next week," he said finally. "Your breakthrough will be presented, with full credit. But the others? Let me worry about that." His voice was firm but kind. "You just keep doing brilliant work." Walking back to his office, Michael reviewed the recordings from his watch. Soon, he would have enough evidence. But for now, watching Alice's glow return to its usual brightness as she went back to work, he felt a strange mix of pride and something else he wasn't ready to name. The afternoon sun caught her light, creating small rainbows on the office walls. For a moment, Michael forgot he was supposed to be reviewing reports. Sometimes beauty could be found in the most unexpected places, even in the middle of a storm. The board meeting was tomorrow, and Alice sat alone in her office late at night. Her glow cast shadows on the walls as she worked to perfect her presentation. Everything had to be perfect. She represented not just herself, but all alien workers at TechCore. The office was almost empty. Only the cleaning staff and a few dedicated workers remained. Alice preferred it this way. No whispers, no stares, just quiet. Her screen suddenly flickered, then went black. "No," she whispered, her glow pulsing with fear. "Please, no." The screen came back on, but her presentation was gone. In its place, a message blinked, "Go home, alien." Alice's light dimmed to almost nothing. She checked her backup drive. Corrupted. The cloud storage. Empty. Even her personal tablet showed signs of hacking. Months of work gone. Her breakthrough erased. The board meeting was in 12 hours. Her glow turned so gray it barely lit up her keyboard. She couldn't cry. Her species didn't have tears. Instead, her light flickered like a dying star. The server room. Maybe there was still hope. Alice rushed down the dark hallway, her dim glow barely lighting her way. The server room was cold and hummed with machinery. She sat in the corner, surrounded by blinking lights, and began the slow process of trying to recover anything she could. Hours passed. Her environment suit beeped warnings about her mineral levels dropping from stress, but she kept working. "Alice?" She looked up. Michael stood in the doorway, holding 2 cups of coffee. He hadn't gone home yet. "What are you doing here so late?" he asked, then saw her gray glow. "What happened?" "Everything's gone," she said, her musical voice flat. "Someone destroyed all my work. The presentation, the research, everything." Michael set down the coffee cups and knelt beside her. In the dim light of her fading glow and the server lights, she could see real anger in his eyes. "Show me," he said quietly. For the next hour, they worked together. Michael's fingers flew over the keyboards, checking systems she didn't have access to. He made calls to its security, his voice firm and commanding. "Look," he said finally, pointing to a screen. They were sloppy, left traces. Alice's glow brightened slightly as she leaned forward. "Can we prove who did it?" "Better." Michael smiled. "We can recover everything." He pulled out a small device from his pocket. "After your last backup was attacked, I started keeping an offline copy of all your work, updated daily." Alice's glow suddenly blazed bright blue with shock and joy. You've been protecting my work all this time." Michael looked away, seeming embarrassed by her bright glow. "Just good business practice. You're our best quantum researcher." They spent another hour restoring her work. As each file reappeared, Alice's glow grew stronger. Michael pretended not to notice how the blue light made patterns on the walls, or how it seemed to dance when she was happy. "Why?" she asked finally. "Why help me so much?" Michael kept his eyes on the screen. "Because you deserve a fair chance. Because your work is brilliant. Because—" He stopped, realizing he'd said too much. Alice's glow shifted to a new color, a soft purple she'd never shown before. Her species knew what that color meant, but humans couldn't understand their light language. "Thank you," she said simply. "Get some rest," Michael replied, standing up. "Tomorrow, we show the board exactly what you can do." As he walked to the door, he turned back. "And Alice, don't let them dim your light. It's too valuable to lose." After he left, Alice sat in the server room for a moment longer. Her glow was the brightest it had been in weeks, filling the room with soft purple light. Tomorrow would be hard, but she wasn't alone anymore. In his office, Michael reviewed the security footage of the hack, planning his next moves. On his desk, he'd been studying a book, Understanding Starlight Being Color Language. The page was open to the chapter on emotional hues. The word purple was underlined. The boardroom of TechCore sat at the very top of the building, its glass walls showing the city far below. 20 board members sat around the massive table, their faces stern as they watched Alice begin her presentation. Her glow was steady but dim with nervousness as she stood before them. In the corner, Tom and his group of senior engineers smiled smugly. They thought they knew how this would end. "Distinguished board members," Alice began, her musical voice clear, "I present our breakthrough in quantum computing." The first slides showed her work. Complex calculations filled the screens. Her glow brightened as she explained how her discovery could double processing speeds. Then came the questions, hard ones, fair ones, and then, "How do we know these aren't alien spy calculations?" Tom interrupted. "She could be stealing our technology." Alice's glow flickered. Another engineer joined in. "Her kind can't be trusted. Look how she glows. Who knows what signals she's sending?" More voices rose. Accusations flew. Alice's light dimmed more with each attack. Her voice grew softer as she tried to defend her work. Then a chair scraped back. Michael stood up. "That's enough," he said quietly, but something in his voice made everyone stop. He walked to the front of the room, standing beside Alice. Her dim glow reflected off his suit as he faced the board. "Before we continue," he said, "I have something to show you." He pressed a button. New screens appeared. Security footage filled them, showing Tom and others deleting Alice's work. More videos played. The coffee spill, the sabotage, the whispered threats, all recorded by Michael's watch and hidden cameras. For 3 months, Michael's voice grew stronger. "I've watched this harassment. I've recorded every incident, every attack, every attempt to drive out the most brilliant mind in our quantum division." The board members leaned forward, their faces darkening as they watched. Tom and his group sank in their chairs. "And despite it all," Michael continued, "despite every attempt to break her spirit, Alice has produced work that will revolutionize our industry." He turned to face the engineers. "You call her untrustworthy. Look at these videos. Look at who really can't be trusted." Alice's glow had begun to brighten, turning a deep blue of surprise and something more. "We stand here at a crossroads," Michael addressed the board directly now. "We can give in to fear and prejudice, lose our best minds, and watch our competitors pass us by. Or we can be better. We can lead the way in showing how humans and aliens can work together, create together, succeed together." He pulled out a folder. "I have here my resignation letter. If Alice goes, I go, and I'll take these records public." The room fell silent. Alice's glow pulsed with shock. She hadn't known he would go this far. The board chairman stood slowly. "Mr. Thompson, you realize the seriousness of these accusations." "I do." Michael's voice was firm. "I also realize the seriousness of letting bigotry destroy our company's future." The chairman looked at the videos, then at Alice's work. Her quantum breakthrough shone on the screens, its potential undeniable. "Tom," the chairman said finally, "you and your associates will report to HR immediately. Ms. Alice," he turned to her, her globe now bright with hope, "please continue your presentation, without interruption this time." As Alice resumed speaking, her glow blazed brilliant blue, lighting up the whole room. Her voice grew stronger. Her calculations danced across the screens. Michael returned to his seat, but not before giving her a small nod. In that moment, her glow flickered briefly to that special purple again. The city spread out below them, sunlight reflecting off countless windows. But in that room, high above it all, the brightest light came from an alien who had finally found her defender, and a human who had chosen to stand up for what was right. And unknown to the others, in Michael's pocket, that book about starlight being colors had a page marked. Under the word purple, it read, "The deepest form of trust and affection." A week after the board meeting, TechCore felt like a different company. HR investigations had led to Tom and 3 other engineers being fired. New company policies about alien employees hung on every wall. But the biggest change was in how people treated Alice. Her glow was bright and steady now as she walked through the office. People smiled at her, asked questions about her work, even invited her to lunch. Some felt guilty about their past behavior. Others were genuinely curious about her species. That morning, as Alice worked at her station, a young intern approached her. "Miss Alice," the intern said nervously, "could you explain how your quantum calculations work? It's fascinating." Alice's glow brightened with pleasure. As she explained, more people gathered around. Soon she had an impromptu class going, her gentle light reflecting off their interested faces. From his office, Michael watched. He smiled, seeing her glow pulse with enthusiasm as she taught. Then he noticed an email from the board. His hands tightened slightly as he opened it. Later that day, Alice found a note on her desk asking her to come to Michael's office. Her glow shifted to nervous purple as she walked in. "Close the door," Michael said, looking serious. Alice's glow dimmed slightly. "Is something wrong?" "The board made some decisions," he said, standing up. "About your position here." Her glow flickered with worry, but then Michael smiled. "They're creating a new division," he said, "quantum computing research and development, and they want you to lead it." Alice's glow exploded with brilliant blue light, illuminating the whole office. "What? Your breakthrough impressed them. Plus, 3 other tech companies tried to hire you after word got out." Michael's smile grew wider. "The board decided to make sure you stay with us." I don't know what to say." Alice's voice sang with joy. "Say yes," Michael said softly. "You deserve this." Alice looked at him closely. Her species could sense emotions through light patterns, and something in the way the sunlight reflected off Michael's eyes caught her attention. "You recommended me for this," she said. "It wasn't a question." Michael looked down at his desk. "You earned it. I just pointed out the obvious." "Like you've been doing all along?" Alice asked. "The backup drives, the recordings, the secret documentation. I saw how they treated you on your first day," Michael said quietly. "I knew you were special. I mean, your work was special. I had to do something." Alice's glow shifted to that deep purple again. This time, she noticed Michael's quick glance at his drawer, where she knew he kept that book about her species' colors. "You studied our light language," she said softly. Michael's face reddened slightly. "I wanted to understand, to be sure I wasn't misinterpreting." Before he could finish, Alice's glow created a complex pattern of blue and purple lights, dancing across the office walls. The pattern meant something very specific in her language. Michael's eyes widened. He slowly opened his drawer and pulled out the book, flipping to a marked page. As he read the meaning of the pattern, his face softened with understanding. "I should have asked earlier," he said, looking up at her. "Would you like to have dinner sometime? To celebrate your promotion, of course." Alice's glow pulsed with joy. "I'd like that, though my species doesn't eat the same food as humans." "I know," Michael smiled. "I found a restaurant that serves both human and starlight being cuisine. I've been waiting for the right time to mention it." Outside his office, employees noticed Alice's bright, happy glow lighting up the whole floor. Some smiled knowingly. Others just appreciated the beautiful light show. In time, they would all learn that the brightest light wasn't from Alice's natural glow, but from 2 hearts finding understanding across the stars. But for now, in that office high above the city, a human and an alien simply smiled at each other, their future as bright as the light that filled the room. The restaurant Michael chose sat on the 200th floor of a nearby building. Through its giant windows, the city lights sparkled below. But inside, Alice's gentle glow created the real atmosphere. They sat at a special table with 2 sections, one normal side for Michael, and one with mineral supplements for Alice. She absorbed her nutrients through her skin, while Michael ate traditional human food. "This is perfect," Alice said, her glow creating happy patterns on the tablecloth. "I've never been to a place that serves both species before." Michael smiled, watching the colors dance. "I thought it was time humans learned to make space for everyone." As they talked, Alice noticed Michael had been practicing her species light language. When he was happy, He moved his hands in ways that caught and reflected her light in meaningful patterns. Not perfect, but touching in his effort. "Would you like to learn more?" she asked, seeing his interest. "About your light language?" "Yes, please." Alice's glow brightened. "Watch this." She created a pattern that looked like falling stars. "This means joy in sharing knowledge." Michael tried to copy the pattern with his phone's light. His attempt was clumsy, making Alice's glow pulse with gentle amusement. "Close," she laughed musically. "But you just said purple banana dance." Their laughter drew attention from other diners, but not the usual stares of fear or distrust. People smiled, seeing a human and alien enjoying each other's company. "I have an idea," Michael said suddenly, "for the company." The next week, TechCore's main hall was transformed. Alice stood in front of a crowd of human employees, her glow creating beautiful patterns on the walls. "Welcome to our first Cultural Exchange Day," she announced. "Today, I'll teach you about light language, the art of communication through light patterns." The crowd watched in wonder as she demonstrated different emotions through her glow. Happy patterns, formal business signals, emergency warnings, all translated into beautiful light shows. Michael stood at the back, smiling as he saw humans and the few other alien employees mixing, learning, sharing. Some humans had brought small lights, trying to copy the patterns. Others asked questions about alien cultures. During lunch break, a young engineer approached Alice. "I'm sorry," she said softly. "I was one of those who whispered about you when you first came. I was wrong." Alice's glow created a pattern meaning forgiveness and growth. The engineer didn't understand the pattern, but she understood the warm feeling it gave her. More cultural exchange days followed. Soon, TechCore became known as the most alien-friendly workplace on Earth. Other companies started copying their program. One evening, as they worked late, Michael watched Alice teaching light patterns to a group of interns. Her glow reflected off their delighted faces as they learned to say hello in light language. "You've changed everything," he said when she returned to his office. "We did it together," she replied, her glow shifting to that special purple that now made Michael smile knowingly. He pulled out a small light device he'd been working on. Carefully, he created a pattern he'd been practicing for weeks. The light bounced off the walls in a complex dance. Alice's glow suddenly blazed with joy. That was perfect." You said, "My heart shines brighter when you're near," in perfect light language. Michael's face reddened slightly. "I've been practicing. Did I really get it right this time?" No accidental purple banana dances. Alice moved closer, her glow creating a matching pattern. "No mistakes this time. And my heart shines brighter when you're near too." Outside, the city lights twinkled like stars. Inside, a human and an alien had found something remarkable. Not just love, but a way to build bridges between worlds, one light pattern at a time. And if anyone in nearby buildings wondered about the beautiful light show coming from TechCore's windows that night, they only had to look at the company's new slogan, shining in both human letters and light language. "Together, we shine brighter." 1 year had passed since Alice first walked into TechCore. The company had changed beyond recognition. Now, aliens from 20 different species worked there, each bringing their own unique talents and cultures. Alice's quantum computing division had grown to 30 members, half human, half alien. Their combined knowledge had led to 3 major breakthroughs. Her office, once a place of loneliness, now buzzed with energy and creativity. That morning, as she prepared for a special company announcement, Alice's glow was exceptionally bright. Michael watched from his office, smiling as he played with a small box in his pocket. The main hall was packed. Hundreds of employees, both human and alien, gathered for the announcement. Light language translations flickered on the walls, courtesy of the new communication system Alice had developed. The board chairman stepped up to the podium. 1 year ago, he began, TechCore made a choice. We chose understanding over fear, growth over prejudice. Today, our stock value has tripled. Our technological advances have put us 5 years ahead of our competitors. But more importantly, we've created something unique, a true interstellar workplace. He gestured to Alice. And so, it is my pleasure to announce our new Global Director of Interstellar Relations, Alice. The crowd erupted in cheers. Humans flashed light patterns of congratulations they'd learned, while alien employees added their own species celebrations. The room became a festival of light and sound. Alice stepped up to speak, her glow creating patterns of gratitude on the walls. Thank you. But I didn't do this alone. She looked at Michael. Someone stood up for me when I was alone. Someone believed in me when others didn't. Someone learned my language of light to understand me better. Michael stood up, walking towards the podium. In his hand, he held the small box. Actually, he said, taking the microphone, I have an announcement too. The crowd fell silent. Alice's glow shifted to curious purple. Michael activated a small device he'd been working on for months. Suddenly, the whole room filled with the most complex light pattern anyone had ever seen him create. The pattern moved across the walls, ceiling, and floor, telling a story in the language of light. Alice's glow pulsed with emotion as she read the pattern. It told their story, from her first day, through the struggles, to their growing love. It ended with a question, written in perfect light language. Alice, Michael said, opening the box to reveal a ring that caught and reflected light in the exact frequency of her species. Will you marry me? According to both human and starlight being traditions, Alice's glow exploded with joy, creating a pattern so beautiful that several people gasped. The pattern meant yes in every light variation possible. Michael slipped the ring onto her hand. It caught her natural glow and transformed it into a pattern meaning eternal love in her language. The hall erupted in celebration again. Humans and aliens alike cheered, their different languages and light patterns mixing in a symphony of joy. Later that evening, on the roof of Tech Core, Alice and Michael stood looking at the stars. Her glow mixed with the starlight, creating patterns of contentment on the windows below. Did you ever imagine, she asked, when you first hired me, that we'd end up here? Michael smiled, watching her glow reflect off her ring. I knew you were special from day one. I just didn't know how special. We've changed so much, Alice said, looking at the city where more and more alien lights could be seen among the human buildings. We've changed things for the better, Michael replied. Together. Above them, ships from different alien worlds moved across the night sky, bringing more visitors to Earth. Below, Tech Core's lights shone like a beacon, showing all of them that humans and aliens could do more than just work together. They could understand each other, protect each other, love each other. Alice's glow merged with the starlight, creating a pattern that needed no translation. It spoke of love, hope, and a future as bright as all the stars in the sky. And somewhere in the city, a new alien had just arrived on Earth, nervous and afraid. But they saw Tech Core's lights in the distance, telling a story of acceptance in the language of light, and knew they had found their way home.